Time for the market report. Lots of volatility right now.
That's right, Mike. Everyone's talking about it. Ag is no different. Big market shifts happening as we speak. But we're going to take a larger view of it, though. We have an interview that might make the catastrophists simmer down. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then several USDA reports on livestock imports and exports, along with current crop progress. And finally, we speak with MSU Extension economist Dr. Steve Martin to get his thoughts on the current state of crops in this state. So, markets closed the week in a flux. A good bit of dramatic movement, as we said. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, corn, up 7.25 cents. That's more than a 1.5 bump from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, lumber, down 84.5 bucks, nearly 12.5% drop from the previous week. Keep in mind, any commodity that changes more than 3% we consider a significant move. So, some recent USDA reports give us an idea of how our livestock imports and exports are looking so far this year. And on top of that, a crop progress report now that planting has begun. Bella Bingham has the details.
This month's livestock imports and exports report showed some loss on both ends for cattle and hogs. Beef and veal imports up nearly 6% compared to last year, while exports down nearly 7%. Cattle imports down 41% compared to last year, while exports also down 10%. Pork imports down a little over 6% compared to last year, while exports down nearly 5%. This month's crop progress report shows little growth. Makes sense considering planting season has just begun. In the 18 highest corn planting states, so far only 2% corn planted, 1% lower than last year at this time. Cotton faring slightly better at 4% planted in the 15 highest cotton-producing states, once again 1% lower than last year. In the 6 highest rice-producing states, Mississippi included, 24% planted, which is 3% higher than last year. In the 18 highest wheat-producing states, winter wheat in the headed growth stage, which is the starting of reproduction before flowering, at 5%, which is once again 1% lower than last year. Condition in fair to excellent shape, 88%. Seems a good crop so far. No stats yet on soybeans, as planting has just begun.
Now we talk about the crop economic situation in this state. I recently spoke with Extension economist Dr. Steve Martin at DREC in Stoneville, Mississippi. And despite the seeming chaos in the markets right now, in truth it appears things are not as crazy as they seem, so long as you take a bigger picture view on the situation.
My guess would have been that the corn acres would have been up nationally, and they were, just because of the price run up we had in February, and so that played out. We had a rice growers, rice consultants meeting a couple of weeks ago, and so we, at the end of it, we put up some acreage projections for Mississippi, and we kind of played around with it. We got pretty close on the corn. You know, we had 700,000 acres. It was 690. We were pretty close on the beans. We had 2.2 million. It was 2.25. Felt pretty good about that, but you know, we just hired Will Eubanks as our new rice specialist, and Will and I have been talking about it and getting a lot of questions on rice acres. We really thought we'd be closer to 200,000 acres of rice this year, and it came in at 150,000. So I would say somewhere between 150 and 200,000. Hopefully it's up a little bit. That rice is a good crop for this area. And then cotton was down. National Cotton Council had done a survey in January and had Mississippi, I think, at 465,000. You know, all the information we have out there right now today, you know, if it's all perfect, doesn't support any price increases. Something will happen. I don't know what it is. Wish I did, but something will happen. Whether it be crop failures in part of the state or increased demand, but something will. You know, crop prices are cyclical, and they'll cycle again. When that shift starts and what causes it, I don't know, but we'll see that. We'll get something worked out with the tariffs, you know, sooner or later, and we'll see some improvement in cotton. Needs demand. It needs a thriving economy and people building houses and the economy growing will help cotton prices. One thing that we forget a lot on our crop prices, all of them, in the United States, it's oftentimes the value of the dollar. So a strong dollar, does not support people importing our products. It helps us import theirs. So that could change. We all want a strong dollar, but from an ag standpoint, a commodity standpoint, it's different. But even sitting here today, we've got 14, 16 months to sell the crop. As long as your banker and your wife will go along with it, we don't have to sell the 2025 crop, for a year now, over a year. And I'm not suggesting that's the right marketing plan, but I'm just saying there's a lot of time for things to change.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Hopefully the tariff uncertainty will pass soon and we can focus back on the normal factors.